Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and our guest today is Rabbi Gansburg and Rebbetzin. Help me out here.
Chani.
Okay. And if I mispronounce it, don't worry about it. We'll just skip right over. Let's talk about Hanukkah, the short version of why we celebrate that and what it means. You're first.
Okay. So we celebrate the holiday of Hanukkah to commemorate the victory of the Jewish people over the Greek army. The Jewish people were a tiny, teeny army, and through miraculous means, they won over the Greek army, and they were able to rededicate the temple that the Greek army had come in, and they had totally destroyed the temple, and they had contaminated the pure olive oil that the high priest used to use to light the menorah every day in the temple. And it was a major miracle that they were able to find one tiny flask that was not contaminated. And with that, they lit the menorah and celebrated the holiday of Hanukkah. So that's what we do.
This year, Hanukkah is in November versus very close to Christmas.
Right.
So there's been more conversations about these being two separate things rather than sort of merged together to a gift-giving time. So what is the conversation that I'm hearing where there's a higher level of awareness by the Jewish people this year versus other years?
Chani. So Hanukkah, it's a time of celebration, and every time you have an opportunity to celebrate, you should take the time and celebrate with family. Now, this time Hanukkah is very close to Thanksgiving, so people they're still in the spirit of celebration, and we feel it. Last night we had a great event at the Village Hall in Palmetto Bay, and it's already our fourth year. We light the menorah, and we had more people than every year. So I think since we're so close to Thanksgiving, more people are in the mood of celebrating.
So we understand, as I was sending Thanksgiving wishes to people, I made sure it was 2 words, all right? First time ever.
Yeah.
First time ever, all right? And it was not a conscious thought at the beginning when I wrote it. And so many more reasons we should be thanks, and for a lot of things, one being alive and two, the opportunity to give to other people, right? When we celebrated Hanukkah, my wife and a friend cooked 10 pounds of potatoes, which every one of them, all 10 pounds are gone. Thank you very much, Susan, for doing that. And this celebration, the Jews across the globe are right now, why is this so important? And why, when we talk about the oil that was there enough for one day, all of a sudden there's oil for so many more days? Tell us about that.
The miracle of the oil.
Yes.
So as I mentioned before, when the Jews entered the temple right away, all they found was one little flask of oil, and that would only be enough for one day. And they had to light the menorah for many more days. So they sent out a group of people to go and find more oil, and the amount of time that it took for them to get the oil and come back, that was, that would have taken a couple of days. It wasn't,
right.
In those days, it wasn't such quick traveling. But the miracle was that even that little flask of oil that was supposed to last for one day lasted all 8 days, was enough for all those 8 days of the traveling, meaning that even though they would have to go, they didn't need to wait for the people to come back, because that little flask of oil lasted for exactly the time, the 8 days that they needed.
So we know, which I first became aware of despite of my heritage, that the reason that we eat potato latkes in them and other items, and there's a lot of oil in that.
Right.
That's supposed to remind us
Right.
Yes.
of that, which I never knew. I thought it was just there. And so I ate as many as I could,
Yes.
right? And I saw my grandkids last night eating donuts. Same sort of concept.
Same concept,
Which
right.
is, and that's one of the miracles that I find in Judaism. So many of the things that are done, there's reasons for it other than it just looks good or tastes good.
Right.
And so I acknowledge the culture and the education that Jews can share with one another. So you mentioned about you lit the candles or the lights at City Hall, Village Hall, Palmetto Bay. I saw it last night on Facebook.
Yes, fourth year, and thank you to Mayor Karen for arranging it.
And my hat's off to the city of
Palmetto
Village
Bay.
to arrange that. So I was studying a little bit, about Hanukkah in the White House, right?
Right.
And I just found out yesterday the first time it was recognized inside the White House.
Right.
You know when that was? I know you know.
Many years ago.
1979 was the first time Jimmy Carter. See?
Wow, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
looked up, I said,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow, that was just yesterday.
Right.
All right. It, not like it was going on like for 100 years.
Right.
I mean, that, and Jimmy Carter was there, and we all remember when he was president. And so many of the times when we do things, we forget that connection that is there. I was visiting my rheumatologist, and she said, "Where are you from?" And I knew what she meant, but I said, "Miami." She said, "No, where are you from?" And I said, "Ukraine." And she said, "Me too." I said, "Maybe we're related," right?
Neighbors.
And so that when you hear that, and that depthness, that how significant that is, it just took me back, obviously, many years. So talk about, if you would, how you wound up in the village of Palmetto Bay, the two of you, with Chabad Palmetto Bay.
So originally, I'm from Milan, Italy. My grandfather was sent by the previous Chabad Rabbi to Milan, Italy 60 years ago. And then my parents became also emissaries in Milan. And at that time, when I was 10 years old, there was no yeshiva, enough education, Jewish education for me. So my parents sent me at 10 years old to France to study. I had my grandparents, my older siblings. Eventually, I went to study in Israel, in England, in Montreal, different places. And I became a rabbi. I got ordained in Morristown, New Jersey. Right after that, I met my beautiful wife. We got married in New York. And a month before our wedding, we heard about this program, this executive learning program. It's called Kollel, which many people do it a year after the wedding, just to establish their home with the Torah values. And we heard about this Kollel, this executive program in Bell Harbor. So we signed up. They had hundreds of applicants, and we got chosen from eight couples. And was right before our wedding, a lot of preparations. And I told Chani about the opportunity, and she actually wanted to stay in New York. She wanted to stay with her family in New York, and I convinced her. And we ended up in Bell Harbor. We studied there for 2 years. Amazing experience. After we finished the study in Bell Harbor, I actually was the executive director of an organization. It's called Brit Yosef Yitzchak, which does circumcision. Are you ready? For adults.
Ouch.
There are many adults that for some reason their parents didn't give them, or they came out from Russia, from different countries, didn't have circumcision. So they had a branch in Israel, a branch in Russia, and they wanted to open a branch in America. So I opened a branch. 2 years was very, very successful. We did hundreds of circumcisions. But this was something that I was doing. Yes. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a mohel, and I can't.
You just arranged it.
I just arranged it. I can't be, even in the room, I can't be for too long. But even though it was going very well, Chani felt that she wanted to do something that she will be part of it. Like, she also grew up in the sense of building a community. It's called shlichut. And so we were looking for something that we could do both together as a couple, and we work very well together. And so we met Rabbi Felig, and he told us about this beautiful village of Palmetto Bay. The minute I drove Old Cutler with all the trees, I just fell in love with Palmetto Bay. And we liked it because it's a city on its own, has its own identity, but it's small. It's, everyone knows each other, and it's a feeling of family. It's not like a big city. And there's no Jewish temple, there's no Jewish identity in Palmetto Bay. So we took the responsibility to open a Chabad, and we moved in with 5 kids at that time, with no support, just moved in like this, and we're here today.
It's amazing to see that you made that transition and moved into an area and created this institution.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you to say, "Hey, family, I'm moving down to Florida"?
So, as my husband said, I really didn't want to, because my parents at that time, well, they still are. They live in Monsey, upstate New York. I'm from South Africa, but my parents had moved to Monsey like 2 years prior to my wedding. And I had some siblings living in New York, and I just wanted to be in New York the first, when I got married, just after I got married, to have support. I'd be able to go to my parents for suppers or whatever. But when my husband said to me, you know what, let's just try it out. It's only 2 years. And he said, if you don't like it, we'll come back to New York after 2 years.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're here on vacation. 20
Yeah.
years on vacation. I remember at that time, I was sitting with Rabbi Lipsker from Bal Harbor, and Chani was saying, I really want to stay in New York with family. And he said, don't worry, you'll move to Miami. You'll find a lot of families. People say, oh, you're my third cousin. Can I stay over by you? I'm coming for a weekend. People come to Miami always. So you'll find a lot of family.
Yeah.
Would you tell us about lighting of the candles and how it proceeds through Hanukkah?
How we light the candles?
Yes.
Okay. So the first night of Chanukah, we light one candle. The middle candle, this candle, is called the shamash, which is like the helper candle. And we use the shamash to light the candles. The second night, we'll add one more candle. We start from the right, and we add one more candle here. And the third night, we'll go on. And this symbolizes the idea that we always have to increase in light, in goodness, in kindness. Our yesterday is not good enough for today. We always have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, the way that I was yesterday, is it good enough for today? How am I going to bring more light into the world? So that is the message of the Chanukah candles, of how we increase every single day.
So tomorrow, or tonight, there would be the second day, but there would be 3 candles, the one in the middle, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
at some point, there would be 8 plus the Shamas candle that's there.
Correct.
Right. And I'm so pleased because I was telling my wife, well, let's make sure, first time I've ever realized it, make sure that it's the front window. I turned around and she'd moved
Yeah.
everything there. So today, as we light these candles, even though we're not doing a prayer right now, there's a window not too far from us. And then we have the window to the world we're
Correct.
sharing that. So we're delighted to be able to do that. So let's talk about December 5th in Palmetto Bay, village of Palmetto Bay. What's going to be happening?
So we're going to have an amazing community event. The whole community will get together, hopefully 150 people to 100. And we started in a very, very small place on Old Cutler and 168 by Starbucks 12 years ago. And then was growing. And we decided a few years later to do it at the park. And we're blessed with the beautiful Coral Reef Park. And the first year, we just had menorah lighting with some games for kids. And then we said, it's getting, more people are coming. So then a year later, we had a barbecue. And more people were happy, a kosher barbecue. And this year, we're going to also add a comedian, Avi Lieberman, a Jewish comedian. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
Good. So they can just show up.
Just show up. Everything
Right.
is free.
It's a free event. It's a great family time. We have people coming from all over. It's open to everybody. And we really feel like that day, it brings so many people from Palmetto Bay together. It's like the Jewish event of the year. It's open to everybody, but it really brings
The community together.
Yeah, the community together. It's
And it's on
beautiful.
December 5th. What time?
2:00,
So,
from 2 to 4.
and so we each look to our history. I see frequently now people on TV, especially when these shows about their genetics. Oh, I'm part Jewish.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that something that's relatively new phenomena where people are proud of that, or has that been going on for a long time?
I think in this country, when people feel the freedom and you could be Jewish and people respect the religion, I think more people coming out of the closet and say, my grandmother, my great-grandmother was Jewish. Almost every week I get a phone call. Someone tells me, oh, my grandmother used to light candles Friday night inside the closet, or she always used to separate meat and milk. I never knew why. And people are looking to get reconnected.
And speaking about connections, so my wife and I go up to Crown Heights years ago, and we're in one of the hotels that are there, a small hotel. And I'm looking, I said, I know my great-grandparents were here someplace. I know that, right? And it was very moving for me. And then for the first time, I went into a retail store filled with all Jewish stuff. I had a complete meltdown in the middle of the store, crying like a baby. It was just like, it was uncontrollable for me, that connection that was there. And I was so overwhelmed. So the next day we go to 777. Oh my goodness gracious.
Wow.
And that is, correct me if I'm wrong, the home of Chabad,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And there were hundreds, maybe more, right?
If not thousands.
Yeah.
And they're chattering with each other, and if you will, I don't mean the director, arguing each other about the Torah, All right. And then at some point, somebody comes over to me and says, "First time here?" I go, "Yes."
They could see in your face.
Yeah. So he says, "This is for you." So he gives me Chanukah. And he takes me over to where they're, everybody looked like a rabbi, but where they're reading from the Torah like this. I'm thinking, please don't ask me to hold this because I know I'm going to faint, right?
Wow.
But the connection was so strong. And then we went to the place of final resting for the Rebbe.
Rebbe.
Right.
Another emotional moment for me. I went with
Wow.
Rabbi Harlig,
Wow.
and it was really another overwhelming moment for me and understanding my heritage. So I'm delighted that I found that and can be proud of that.
Wow, that's incredible. Every person has what's called a pintelayid, a soul within them that sometimes it's over the years, whatever reason, it gets covered up. It gets dusty, gets a little covered up. And sometimes it just takes an opportunity, a time, a place, an event, some type of happening that just uncovers those layers that was covering that inner soul within you, and it just ignites it. And so that's what was
Yes,
happening with you.
Yes, and
You
I
just
do
walked
want
into
to
that place.
thank you, and I do want to give a shout out to Rabbi Felig, Rabbi Friedman, Rabbi Harlig, and to yourself for making that happen here in Miami-Dade County, because years ago it really wasn't like that. And when my wife started getting more involved 20 years ago, she went to a couple different temples and she found a home at another Chabad to where she liked it, was connected to there, and the people were there.
Yeah.
And one of the great things about Miami, you can experience so many things.
Right.
One evening I was down with the farmers, all right, in Homestead. A couple hours later, I was at Chabad, and he's making me carry around it was an honor to do it, all right? Pretty nervous. And then the next day, I was at a medical office, and everybody there no one spoke English. Here in Miami, you can have all those experiences all at the
100%.
same
Yes.
moment,
100%.
all within 5 to 20 miles of that. So we got a great eclectic community here.
Also different languages.
Yes.
So every week I have an opportunity to talk to people either in Hebrew, or some older people in Yiddish, English, French. My mother's French, I speak French. Italian very little, and Spanish. I'm getting better with my Spanish.
Well, I am pleased to say my grandchildren, Benjamin and Charlotte, they're learning Spanish, and they're doing pretty good in the Hebrew stuff. And so we're delighted that my daughter married Levi Bayer, wherever you are. Thank you so much for doing that. And it's been a real learning experience for me and for the community. So again, you chose Palmetto Bay out of there were
All over
34
the world.
there, all right, all over the world. And then
we're ready to go anywhere in the world. We look at South Africa, Russia, anywhere. We're ready to pack our bags and go wherever we will feel is the right place.
Did you think it was calling you?
It's a calling that I had, and even when we met, through the first date we spoke. Are we on the same page? Are we ready to go anywhere in the world? And she said yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So you can't do it if you're not on the same page.
So I frequently ask this question.
Yeah.
When did you know you wanted to do what you're doing? We'll start with your lovely wife.
Well, I as well grew up, as I said, in South Africa. My parents were also emissaries of the Rebbe that were sent to South Africa in the early 1970s. And I grew up with that. Every Shabbos we had guests, and I grew up with that inner sense of always wanting to give and to share and to teach. It's like it was nurtured throughout my upbringing, and I knew I wanted to do that. I just felt that by giving and wanting to share that Yiddishkeit is beautiful, and it's so relevant to nowadays. That Torah is not just an old thing from over 3,000 years ago. It is so relevant and practical to nowadays, and it brings so much value into your life. And I just knew it.
I want you to think back. When did you know that? How old were you?
Hard to pinpoint, but for sure, like in my teenage years.
Right. So for sure in your teenage years.
Yeah.
Is that 12 or 18?
Probably 12, 13.
Okay. So I just want you to think back, and it does matter because there's people that are watching you right now that are trying to figure out what they want to do. Mm-hmm. Can you think back when you were much younger where you said, I think I want to do this?
if you will see my kids, our kids, and you will ask them this question, they will tell you now, at least majority of them, that's what they want to do when they get older. And let's say Friday night, sometimes I want to relax and I say no guest, and the kids tells me, no, you have to have guests. You're a rabbi, you're a Chabad emissary, you
How
can't
old are
take
they?
off. All ages.
Okay. Whole bunch.
Thank
Of
God.
course.
Thank
Amen.
God. The youngest is 5 and the oldest is 19.
Here's what we've
Yeah.
seen. That there are a lot of people when they're in second and third grade, it starts to pop up. We had a guest, her name was Lauren Page. When she was in second grade, she's in 10th grade. When she was in second grade, she told her parents, I think there's little children that are illiterate. She has now distributed 310,000 books
Wow.
to
That's
kids that need it.
incredible.
Second grade.
Yeah.
We have doctors that tell us all the time, elementary school, really.
Yeah.
So there's something where you start thinking about it. Then there's a time that you externalize it. Those are two different things.
Right.
I think you've sort of searched it out,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And when I was a runner for 25 years, but before I started running, I was in preparation
Right.
of that for years and years and years.
Right.
So, Rabbi, when did you say, this is what I want to do?
So the way our schools and colleges are designed, that every week we study from Sunday through Friday, we study, and then Friday afternoon we go outside, knock on doors of offices and buildings and houses and put filling with people. So
And we're going to do that in a couple
Yes,
minutes.
we're gonna
We're
do
going to
it.
start in 2 minutes.
Yes.
All right.
so-
First time, by the way. All right, I'm watching you. All right.
yeah, so every week when came Friday and I met successful people, I met people and not so successful, it always gave me a great feeling inside. So it always reassured, this is I'm gonna do, if I could make it financially or not, but this is my calling in life.
That's wonderful. So my brother and I have been doing this for our entire lives. Our family came from radio and TV and newspapers. And when the pandemic hit at the beginning, it was like, gee, why don't we just go to sleep and wake up with Rip Van Winkle? And I said, you know what? No, I want to see what we do, right? And that challenge was there. And we've been communicating with people for decades, right? And in the family, it's been 60-70 years that I've never felt so fulfilled in a mission to share with the public people and issues that we think that are important.
Yeah.
And so it is with my pleasure that we're going to go ahead. We're going to do this. If you would
Yes.
explain to people, I'm going to sit right here because there's a good shot here. All right. Are we going to stand?
We're gonna stand soon.
Okay. And
So-
so we need to make sure, Andre said we have a microphone. So if we need to adjust it, why don't you come over and do that?
So this is called tefillin.
Okay.
We men, we do it every day. And I call it a spiritual Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Spiritual Wi-Fi. Why? Because we put it on our hand, on the left arm, next to our heart, and then we put it on our head, between our eyes. Now, the way we put it to fill in, if you put it on a little bit more on the right, it's not going to work. It has to be exactly between the eyes and exactly here. So 200 years ago, if we will explain someone that there's a system for the spiritual energy to come to you, he would say, okay, I'll change a little bit, big deal. Today with a computer, with a laptop, you take the computer here, it works, you move it a few feet, there's no Wi-Fi. So we could understand that if you do it the exact way, it works. And I seen every month when I hear from people that they put feelings, some people put once a month, once a week. Some people that are more spiritual, they feel a change. Other people, they do it just because.
And you're going to ask me to repeat some things.
Yes.
I'm not very good at it, but I'll just, at some point, I'll just mutter. All right. All right. So what's our best shot, Andres?
Well, the prayer that you're going to
Yes.
say is the Shema,
Yes.
the quintessential prayer of all Jews.
What do you want us to stand? Okay. Very good. Okay. Do we want to move this in? Okay.
We're going to put it on the left hand. So this is, when a boy becomes bar mitzvah, this is actually how you become bar mitzvah. By
Okay.
putting tefillin, not a party. This is makes you bar mitzvah, but you
Okay.
did it many times.
I'm going to make sure we're on. Andres?
We're going to make a blessing. And Baruch
Baruch
Ata
Ata
Adonai
Adonai
Eloheinu
Eloheinu
Melech
Melech
Haolam
Haolam
Asher
Asher
Kiddushanu
Kedishanu
B'mitzvotav
B'mitzvotav
V'tzivanu
V'tzivanu
Lehaniach
Lahaniah
Tefillin.
Wow.
No talking until I put the head one. I know it's hard. It's against your job, but now just time to meditate. Now you look like a king. So now we're going to say the most important prayer in the Siddur. It's called the Shema Yisrael. This is what we teach a child when he's young, and this is the last prayer a person says before he leaves the world. If someone knows that he's dying, this is the last prayer. So we say Shema
Shema's
Israel
Israel
Adonai
Adonai
Eloheinu
Eloheinu
Adonai
Adonai
Echad
Bahad
Baruch
Baruch
Shem
Shem
Kevod
Kabod
Malchuto
Mahuto
Leolam
Maholam
Va'ed.
But
The rest would like to read in English.
sure. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them thoroughly to your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk on the road, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign upon your arm, and they shall be reminded between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the gateposts of your house and upon your gates.
So it says, and you shall write them upon the gates of, upon the doors of your house. The same writing that we have in Tefillin is the same writing that we have on the mezuzah. So right now, when you put Tefillin, hopefully you're going to start doing it every day. It's a 5-minute, 3 minutes project. All the doors of heaven are open. So right now, take the moment, seize the moment, close your eyes, and do a prayer for your family, for your loved one, for yourself, for the community, and for the world at large. I want to challenge you to do it another time before the end of the year.
Okay. You're on.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Thank you.
I have to say that this mitzvah that you did, it's so touching because it really represents the whole message of Chanukah. You know, we have thousands of viewers watching you doing this mitzvah, representing, you know, that you are a Jew and you're standing proud. And this is the idea of oil, of light, of being out there illuminating the world by being who you truly are, by taking your Judaism and owning it and being proud of it. And you're showing that to the world. And this is the whole message of Chanukah. It's really touching.
Thank you for the honor.
My pleasure.
So I think we're going to wrap it up here.
Okay.
Tell everybody again on December 5th where they should go.
So December 5th at Coral Reef Park by the gazebo, we're going to have the most amazing community event, Chanukah event, kosher barbecue, a lot of fun things for kids, and menorah lighting, and of course, our renowned comedian, Avi Lieberman.
Tremendous.
And before I forget, I want to thank Barbara,
Thank you, Barbara.
our social media manager, for coordinating this event and for
Yes.
pushing us to do it. Thank you, Barbara.
Yes, thank you.
Happy
Thank you.
Hanukkah. Thank you very much.
Michael.
very much.
Thank
And thank
you
you
for
for being here.
giving us
Folks,
opportunity.
remember November 5th, Palmetto Bay. And if you can't,
Will we see you there?
December 5th.
December 5th. I knew one of those days.
It's the last
lots
day of Hanukkah.
Last day of Hanukkah. Remember, count your blessings and have a great day.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.